What's up, everybody? Metta World Peace here. The Test Your Greatness podcast, brought to you by thepandasfriend.com. It's a brand truly by an athlete, for an athlete. But so many times we get emotional, so many times we let our energy get the best of us, or someone else's energy growing up from where I'm from, or maybe from where you're from too. And we grow up pure, and then at some point in time in our neighborhoods, things get the best of us. Collectively, we got to go through a journey, and then we get out of it on the other side somehow. I saw so many talented people. Now, keep in mind, I grew up in a black neighborhood. Well, it depends when you look at the definition of black. When I look at the definition of a black person, then I'll take that definition and then add person at the end. So you can interpret that how you want, but growing up amongst people, how I grew up, some smart individuals. I remember the days where people would come home from school, maybe your parents couldn't drop you off, maybe you was hungry, people getting in trouble, and now that starts, oh, you missed one day of class, now you got to make it up. You're not studying. You don't have tutors. You don't have that type of infrastructure in the household. Oh, now you get left back. Now you're going to jail. And now, this is where you could potentially see people in handcuffs. You could potentially see people, not making it. You could potentially see people in jail. And then you get a tag on a group of people. So you might see me walking around the street, and you might be like, that guy looks suspicious, or that person looks suspicious, until you see them on television. Then you're like, oh, this person doesn't look suspicious because I seen him on television. But that person, and that's just because it's not everyone, but it's the education, it's the embedment of giving a tag to a group of people, which is a dark tag. And sometimes, although somebody might be struggling, if you're hungry and you're working hard, you might see the grit, but you don't see the other side, the loving side. This person is capable of making babies. Is capable of having a family. So, when you look at everything happening these days in politics and socializing and different areas of just living, different areas of spirituality and everything. Sometimes, we could get a little bit caught up. And, we're in America. We've gone through things, and there are a lot of people on different sides, extreme to non-extreme, puts us in tough situations, anything from Social Security, or anything from a minimum wage, or things from injustice, or things from lack of opportunities. Sometimes people are afraid to say certain things because they don't know if they're going to lose their job, or it's just so many things happening, in the world, which is another reason why I tried to stay away from media as much as possible. And we all have flaws. I have my own flaws, and I don't know what flaws anybody else has, and it's things we got to go through, but at some point we got to just work on getting it right. At some point we got to say, okay, I've created a bad situation at any level, and now I want to get it right. And I think that's where the mind should be focused at. We're here in America, and sometimes they'll say it's the home of the free, but if by default, I'm a Democrat because I grew up in a Democrat kind of society, right, where you would vote for just a Democrat because of reasons you don't really understand as a child. But as you get older, you start to say, oh, I've seen the dog hose, I've seen the fireman hosing of black people, I've seen the black people being bit by dogs. This is all images that we've seen. And then you look back into your neighborhood and you're like, oh, I've seen when police came through and running through the neighborhood and doing things like that and targeting people For marijuana, you gotta hide the marijuana so police don't take you in, and you miss one day of school and or a week, you can't make it up. You're getting left back. So it's a really tough environment. So from that perspective, when were those Democratic police? Were they Republican police? We don't know, right? So just from that perspective, as you go on in your journey in life, if we're truly free, then you have the freedom and the independency to vote according to how you want to vote, right? And I think sometimes, I think that if you vote for a party, it doesn't mean you hate the other party. Is it supposed to mean, hey, I'm voting this way, so I should hate them, or I'm going to vote for this person, so that person must be wrong, or the person I'm voting for is right, but are you going to back them because, just because? I think, yes, it's a big job. We all know we live here in this world that we're under. But I also believe that there's some beauty to politics. I also believe that there's a little bit of beauty to having that type of ability, capability of getting laws passed. Now, yeah, on the other side, if you make it non-beautiful, it will be non-beautiful. But I think it should be a thing of beauty. It shouldn't be a thing of, oh, we're just trying to survive. I wasn't really into politics. I'm into social politics, which is an iron line forward for social impact. You're not supposed to really look at a lot of the things, because once upon a time when we came here from wherever we're from, because we don't really understand where exactly that we're from, and it would be nice if people could tell us. Exactly where are we from? What country are we from? That information has been discontinued. Probably still exists, but it's just not here. So just from that perspective, we are here under the rules that other people made. That should give you the ability to vote however you want to vote. And without feeling pressure. Sometimes you get people voting because they're forced to vote a certain way, or they by default are a part of a certain party or group, just by default, and if you don't do this, then I'm not your friend no more. I just don't believe in that. I believe in, and I'm not saying what I say is the end all be all, but what I'm saying is, I believe, hey, you want to vote that way? Okay, great. If you was my friend before me, prior to me knowing, then why won't you be my friend now? Why do I have to distance myself from you? You feel a certain way about rules. Do you feel that way about me? If you don't feel that way about me, then then I'm like, okay, I can't force you to vote any way you want to vote. Nor do I want to, right? Whatever, I think whatever happened to, hey, he's a Republican, she's a Republican, he's an independent, she's an independent, he's a Democrat, she's a Democrat. And if we're truly trying to collaborate, yeah, obviously election time is election time, but we still got to at some point collaborate, and do things together and do some business together. And then, but the one thing, social impact trumps everything, because social impact and social politics, it's really moving things forward with the curiosity and ideas, and you're doing it collectively. And then people that don't want to join in, then you can't control that type of thinking. I can't have somebody join in on doing something positive, for the community that looks like me, and or some people will say black, which is okay. I will always bring up the definition, because I just look into everything. I'm super curious, but let's just call it black for now. So if I'm putting together a program for people of color, black people, and with brown skin, and then if you don't want to join because you don't have the funding, that's different. You want to focus somewhere else, that's different. But if you don't want to join because that person is black, that's, you're not a part of social politics or social impact. It's not the same category. It's very similar to when people created hip hop and then they changed. They added genres and it's not hip hop, but I'm from where hip hop started, even though I don't quite look like it anymore, or talk like it anymore, but I don't have to go back and show people where I'm from, you know, that's hip hop. It's the same thing with, how we moving forward now. You say one thing, you want to be a part of social politics or social impact, and doing another, not agreeing with the right thing because someone didn't agree with you. So you know what? That important bill, we'll just let it hang. I understand negotiations, but at some point, there has to be some maturity. Sometimes we acting like we're teenagers. The negotiation has to be, at some point, it has to be social politics involved. At some point, because we're missing out on the beauty of this thing. We're missing out on the beauty of having our children become smart and critical thinkers, right out the box. And now that one gym, it might not be your gym, it might not be your child, it might be someone else's, and we got to be okay with that. You do everything you can, for your family, but sometimes you got to support other people, and let them come up with these incredible ideas that's going to clean the water with the resources that is given to them by us, but by us meaning our generation. But obviously, I'm not an engineer or scientist. Let them come up with these incredible ideas to leapfrog into space and explore. We're giving them tools to just be stressed. We're giving them tools to just be like, oh, I'm just going to stay here, work, and do the same thing. This is life. This is the beauty. This is the beautiful thing about Mother Nature and the land that we live on and the resources that we have, and our collective minds to come together and do something special, and do something incredible, and do something with intention. Do something with intention that's going to affect social impact and social politics. As a kid, I did want to be a lot of things. A musician, an athlete, an actor, a president, a teacher. And at some point that was cool. And I think even right now to this day, you'll get the youth thinking, oh, that's cool. What's not cool is when we destroy them, right, across the world, right? Kids are not making it past a day because they've been harmed and unable to breathe and move on. And other things that's going on. At some point, we got to get it right. And then at some point, the people in the world, at some point, you can't just be destructive because you're not getting what you want. And then at some point, we got to be helpful. At some point, we have to make sure that we're not just keeping everything for ourselves, that we are providing resources for people. We are essentially a collective. Now, not everybody feels that way, which is okay. I don't necessarily want to get involved in that part. I want to stay on the line of just being a value add. And I tell people all the time, as many mistakes as I made in my life, it's no excuse not to help the next person. Just because I'm not, doing the best that I could do, or maybe having a bad day, doesn't mean I can't get up with some energy to help someone else. Just because you're not happy, there's no reason for you to hold that against other people. Oh, I'm not going to help them. They'll never get this. They'll never get that. They'll do that. You understand what I'm saying? And so I think you want to be a part. You want to be on the right side of history, and I think the right side of history is social politics. And yeah, I don't like the way my ancestors was treated on the Republican side. I don't like the way my ancestors was treated on the Democratic side, and maybe even on the independent side. Right, I'm an independent. Right, but from that perspective, we're here. We live on the same land. We had people that helped take my ancestors out of slavery. Then we had people that wanted to keep us in slavery. And we also have people that understand that this earth is an open source earth. It's for everyone. It's also a great opportunity. We also love the opportunity to make some money and buy that big property. Not everybody can do that, right? There has to be some type of balance. Either we all going to say, you know what, let's live equally, or hey, if I'm going to make more, at least I can give back. At least give somebody, not even hope, just happiness. Some people don't want to just live in a big city, in a penthouse. Some people are happy living, in a $50,000 property on a nice island or in nature, right? So I think capitalism is not necessary, but it's an accessory just by default. If that makes sense, it's an accessory. It's not capitalism. Is not necessary, but it's a cool thing. But we gotta make it. We gotta make sure here in America. We gotta make sure that we are being responsible with capitalism. We gotta make sure that we're being aware of nepotism. Right? We gotta make sure that we're not losing focus. We gotta make sure that, every time something's going well, somebody want to come in and beat the drums off beat. We gotta make sure that stay focused, continue to bring people together, and really bring the energy together. Because sometimes people, I understand that people want to be around their own people sometimes. I'm not going to fault someone for that. It has nothing to do with me. I understand that people want to integrate. I'm the type of person that want to integrate, and just because I'm from, the biggest federal housing project in America, we're mostly of ancestral slave blood people. It doesn't mean that I don't want to be around Italian people, or it doesn't mean I don't want to be around Dominicans sometimes and Puerto Ricans sometimes. Sometimes I want that culture shift. Sometimes I want Chinese food. Sometimes I want Jamaican food. I might want to go to an Indian wedding. It's a lot of the culture's incredible. Or sometimes I might want to just be around my people, my homies, my friends. When I made it to the NBA, I used to go to Chicago, got drafted. I used to drive back on Fridays just to get back home in the hood. I did not like being in the suburbs. It just was like, ooh. To me, it was like, I need to get back home immediately. I would leave Highland or Deerfield and drive home for 16 hours because I couldn't quite afford a first-class ticket at that time as a rookie because it's expensive. You keep going back and forth, and then I would drive back and be home. I'll be home in New York City for 36 hours, sometimes 16 hours. So I don't think we need to fault someone for being comfortable. But I do think if there's any hate and judgment, or hate mixed with judgment in your comfort, you need to become uncomfortable. It's one thing to want to be next to your friends or next to your family. It's another thing to not want to even be around someone because you just want to never be around. yeah, to me that's a little bit of that's a little bit suspect, and I don't necessarily agree with that type of a mind frame. Um, so here I am, as an independent. Here we are, election time. Yeah, absolutely, we're going for RFK, Robert Kennedy Jr. But it doesn't mean that we don't have a perspective first, because I'm very not to the most part maybe analytical, but I'm very curious. So it doesn't mean we don't have a perspective and some statements about Republicans. Doesn't mean we don't have perspective and some statements about the Democrats. But we also have to put it in layers. These are all the higher power. We are all the higher power children, right? So the human part, we have to see that first. Sometimes inside, do you remember the days? Pardon me, but do you remember the days, or do you remember a day where you felt something inside, anxiety, depression, just off, right? So sometimes inside, whether you're looking at you or someone else, sometimes you got to give gratitude just to be around people, right? So you gotta. I think that's always first. Your first thing can be, oh, I see a person. They're this color. Not saying you're making a judgment because of that color, but that's what your eyes first see. It doesn't see how someone's feeling, right? Because you see somebody's like, I don't like this person. I think that can never be the first judgment. I think that can be second. I think it can for sure be. It can be second. Then you start to break it down, especially when you're talking about where we're at right now. In life. And yeah, I have a lot of curiosities. I like to save my curiosity for in person. I don't necessarily like to talk about it, publicly. But I have curiosities and perspective. I have curiosities about the Democrats. I have perspectives. Some that I think can really help us. And then I'm not into all of the secrecies, because at some point we gotta protect national security. You can't know everything. Yeah, we want to know everything, and I'm an independent, right? I'm an independent, and my candidate is incredible guy, right? And yeah, but at some point, as a fan or as a voter or as just a regular citizen, at some point we cannot know everything, because national security. But there are simple things that we want to improve. Like making sure Social Security is going to be okay, making sure people are learning, making sure people are learning to fish, making sure people can help themselves, making sure we're not holding people back. Give someone else a chance to show what they can do and maybe go up the ranks in life and create an incredible family. Give them a shot. So I have a lot of perspectives and curiosities. And on the Republican side, I have a lot of perspectives and curiosities. Some of curiosities is, I think I have so many really good friends on both sides, and then sometimes certain actions overshadow the party. At this point, and I'm not the first one to speak about this, but at this point in life, we all know that there are black people who are Democrats, maybe the majority, and then you have black people that are Republicans right now. This is public information, right? Because we're seeing it every day. But at some point, if you can't try to harm people and keep people down, in the name of a party, because that's not fair. You see what I'm saying? Like, that type of stuff is not fair. Because if you're truly, let's say we're here in America, and we want to have the option to vote for any party we want, right? Pushing the country forward, right? No matter who wins, we push the country forward. Push the country forward. Some would call it. so whatever they call it. But so, no matter who. And so, but at some point in time, you know, the ignorant remarks, we see it. I of course, I've gotten them more than I've gotten them more than a lot of people because yeah, you hear me now. I went back to school when I retired, did some things, but when I first got in, I was very pro neighborhood, my neighborhood, urban neighborhood, federal housing project, very pro, and I was very open about it. And people were used to athletes, kind of crossing over a little bit. I came in and didn't cross over. I stayed 10 toes down at the street level, even in my jargon. So people really didn't like that. And even now, I'm still the same, but I'm interested in way different things than I was when I was 19. I'm interested in a lot of different things, and things I'm interested in cause the jargon to change a little bit, which I'm fine with, and I'm secure, and I'm happy. But at some point, you got to be responsible with your words. It's times where I wasn't responsible with my words. I'm not saying I'm flawless, but at some point, it just gets overwhelmingly annoying. Like you're saying things just to hurt people's feelings. It just doesn't make sense. At some point, you gotta maybe you did it once, but at some point you gotta go home and meditate. Right? At some point you gotta be like, okay, that was wrong. Yeah, if you're not really doing that, then yeah, you might get some, people of slave blood descent to cross over to the Republican side. You might get that, but there's going to be a distance there. At some point you got to be the people that are not being responsible with their jargon. At some point you got to get responsible. At some point, at some point we got to all understand that we're humans. We're not saying, oh, we need to hang out all the time. I don't want to hang out with people all the time too, by the way. I literally don't want to be around people all the time. If I have to hang around you just to do business with you all the time, then I'd rather not. That's just human nature. You look at even when a panda is born, they're cuddly, and then as they get older, speaking of panda, pun intended, when they get older, they're like, don't come next to me. They become adults. They're like, yo, I want my space. Right? It makes sense from humans to animals. It makes sense. So, but at some point, we got to get more responsible. And at some point, people have to start teaching a different thing. We evolved as humans. Some would suggest they know how we got here. Some would say, I don't know. People have different opinions, but at some point, things has changed, and I think if people don't want things to change, at least evolve. Because a lot of things are annoying. I don't necessarily, like I said, I like to speak to people face to face, not necessarily, through technology all the time. But I just want to encourage people. This should be election time. At some point, it should be something of joy. It shouldn't always be, especially from the people that making decisions. And at some point, you got to have fun with this. When is it fun? When is it going to be cool to be a higher upper? At what point in time can we look up to the higher upper? On either side, like, oh, that's a great girl. Oh, that's a great guy. They're doing a great job, running the country. And I want to be here to support. At some point, it's not all about positioning. And I think that's where we got to get to. At the same time, I think that's where you become back where we were. Not by force, just by being cool, just by being inviting, just by being wanted, just by oh wow, good leaders, just by being a good leader. And I think that's the message you see a lot in, not just people of slave ancestral descent, bloodlines, but also people of other ethnicities and cultures. I've been speaking to a lot of people. When I came out as an independent, I got so many bad messages. Sometimes people would say, "What are you doing? You're crossing over. You're like white people now. You're not black." I'm like, what? Sorry, if you don't know me, but I'm every bit of black, every bit of it. But I don't necessarily need to show you like what is black. Is black like, yo, what up? Do I have to change my face and change the way I talk? What are we talking about here? Can it just be something that is can I just be me? And wanting to do real work to see the condition. For me, Queensbridge is very important to me. I've seen so many people get taken down, families broke up, dads in jail, and staying within the confinements of the brick structure and not being able to get sun and be happy on a daily basis. So for me, one of my goals in life is to see that change in bulk at scale. So for you, I don't know what that means. So I do have an agenda, why I'm into social politics, and you should too. And there was a point in time where I was there was a point in time where I was into where I was only Democrat, where I was only that was it. We grew up, that's all we knew. But there also was a point in time where I didn't know anything, about politics. And my name is Ronald. So imagine when Ronald Reagan was president. And then as you get older, you see the different opinions people have of different people, whether it's the VP, whether it's the president, whether it's anybody in a position. And then you start to do your history, and then you start to learn about different things, and and you go through these journeys, and you don't really get it overnight. But what happens is you do start to ask questions, and I do understand that people are not really interested in people's opinions. Because it's a famous quote, the famous "shut up and dribble" kind of tagline or quote. But people are curious. Some people are very, very curious, and from that perspective, now I'm uneducated about politics from the lens of I'm not interested in the ins and outs. I'm more interested in social politics, but there are lots of parties: the Forward Party, the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, the Independent Party, and the Green Party, I think, and maybe another one. But at some point in time, I think that whatever party you pick, I know a lot of people are not going to be happy about this, but I said you got to go in there with your perspective. You can't just be like yes, 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 yes. It got to be like, this is what I think, this is what I think, this is what I think, this is what I think. And there'll be chain of commands. Like in life, you can't have 20, 30, 100 people all being I give the final answer. No, there's layers to it, but you can't go in there. I see so many people that I'm just like, wow, you never spoke like this before, and now you're speaking like this. And for whatever reason, which is why sometimes I personally, I'm like a wild card. Right? People don't know. Hold on, is he on my side or is he not? No, I'm not on nobody's side. I'm very clear about that. I'm on the side of evolution. I'm on the side of wanting to explore. That's the side. And I think for me, being an independent, I'm not saying it's any better than the Republican Party or any better than the Democratic Party. And what I'm saying is being an independent, it makes me happy. Because at some point in time, there has to be a way where we could get through these processes and inspire the youth. to do the right thing. It's going to be ups and downs for sure, but it just can't be downer after downer after downer. Whatever happened to the times where the debate's coming on and you just want to watch? Like, I want to hear what you think. Like, I want to be inspired. Like, oh wow, it's a close race. Oh wow, this person won. Oh wow, that's pretty cool. They're gonna make some change. I know there's always gonna be some unbalance. I understand because there's a business aspect to it. It's definitely a business aspect to it. Would I change things? I don't know. I think that I would add different values or opinions and suggestions from my perspective. If I had the opportunity, for sure, 100%. But I think a little more balance is necessary. Now that's necessary. More necessary than capitalism. I think, like I said, I think capitalism is an accessory. It's like you can go many different routes and be okay. You can go many different routes and be okay. Happiness is necessary, right? And I think that's where we got to get to. Which will make more people happy. And I think we deserve it. I think as especially in this era of mankind, and I think we deserve it. It has to be. We deserve to continue to dream. Sometimes you can't even dream because you got to address an issue. Address this issue. Then you forget to dream. I'll dream in a couple months. And that's where I think we want to get past that. So many possibilities here right now on Earth. Not even including the possibilities when we leave, orbit and do other things. It's so many possibilities that we could pursue. There's so many possibilities that I want to see. For example, imagine if the East River water in New York City was clear. That's a cool thing to think about. That's where we should be putting the passion to. No, you did it wrong, right? Like that's, we be fighting about little stuff, cleaning the Hudson River, getting groups of people to go explore stargazing and stuff, things they've never seen before. How do you get a group of people to go see the beach who never saw the beach? How do you create ways where people just stay with their families for long periods of time? Like that's what this should be about. Not about if some material thing is gonna affect a currency exchange situation. That's an accessory. I'm not saying don't explore and don't tap into that, because I think it's pretty cool that currency could give you different things, but not everybody has those opportunities. Not everybody has the opportunities to go through the ranks and in any industry, not even just politics, but also other industries. Not everybody has the opportunity to go through those ranks. They don't even want to. Maybe their mind don't even work like that. Maybe they don't want to work like that. They deserve to be happy. We can't say, oh, because you don't understand the system, that, hey, at some point in time, we're going to take advantage of you. Nah, it's not. It doesn't work like that. It should not work like that. And to an extent, it does work like that. And I think that's where we need to get to. I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight, but at some point, we got to get to the bag. To the bag meaning, that was a little jargon, but for the bag meaning, we got to get to social politics. And let's see how that plays out. And I know I'm not, to an extent, it's a game. To an extent, it's a lot of other things at risk. So we understand that piece. But I think like there has to be a point where we're able to let people dream. Um, there has to be a point where we're not forgetting about what we've been through, what our ancestors been through in this country. I see a lot of people are afraid to talk about whether it's reparations or whether it's something else. Some people are afraid to even say the word. It's like you should be able to have that freedom to talk and have that that freedom to suggest. And yeah, you can't just forget about people and skip people. Nor and that's anybody. You know, that's just more unbalanced. And actually, it becomes worse than a seesaw. It becomes a three-sided seesaw. It's already imbalanced, and sometimes we add another layer of imbalance, which the middle is going to break. It can't hold the weight. So now balance is destroyed, and it never comes back. So from that perspective, I'm super inspired by the opportunities that we have. In my life, I only voted once. I was never into it. I was always playing basketball or in the neighborhood trying to stay out of trouble. Wasn't thinking about voting. And I did once. I think the only person I ever voted for in my life was either Barack or Hillary. And that's because I was getting a lot of people telling me to vote. And I'm like, I don't want to vote. I never voted in my life. But I do vote for collective good. I do vote for happiness, and that's what I vote for. I do vote, to see better conditions of ancestral bloodline. And I do vote for people to be happy. I do vote for people to collaborate, because right now we're at a point of high technology, which is pretty incredible. Some people are using it for good. Some people are using it for bad. But we can't deny that we're here. So there's an opportunity for us to just see the most incredible things that we've ever seen in our life. We actually can communicate with people around the world, which is like incredible. That's something to be curious about. That's something to be curious about. So yes, as an independent, I'm just wishing the best, hoping the best, that people just get through their differences, push forward, and let's have a good time. Let's have a little fun. Let's keep it going. Let's be responsible. Metta World Peace. Make sure you join the podcast. You won't get a lot of hot takes from Metta World Peace. Not saying that I'm not excited to watch other people's podcasts. I do enjoy watching some of the podcasts. But I'm more into just different types of communication and podcasts. So Metta World Peace. Make sure you go to thepandasfriend.com. It's the only way we keep our podcast up and running. Make sure you go to artestmanagementgroup.com. It's our business website where we work with up-and-coming companies and where we launch our own companies. Make sure you go to artestuniversity.com. Stay updated to our 501c3. And till next time, the podcast, Test Your Greatness. Remember, never, ever give up. You could do anything you put your mind to. Metta World Peace.